Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this very nice, sunny, even 10 degrees Celsius morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Plenty to talk about today as Bitcoin plays out a big old bounceola, and we get to play the game of, is it bounce or not? Is it bounce or not? Is it fuck or not? No. Is it bounce or fuck? Who the hell knows? That's what we're going to be addressing hopefully in today's video. We'll also go over a little bit more of the long-term hopium case as well, because I do want to balance it out and represent both sides as accurately or at least as neutrally as possible. And with that said, if you do find this content valuable, or if you just want to give back a little bit in a most costless way, that is, then the easiest way to do that would be to like and derp the old button right there. Hit the derp button, if you will. Of course, only if you want to. And then we got the old Bybit shill. Bybit offering up $3,000 or $4,000 deposit bonus. Link in the description below, obviously. As always, be careful with leverage trading. If you're not already successfully leverage trading, this is not the way to do that. The best way to do that is to take advantage of their testnet accounts, which yes, Bybit does have. And work on your strategies there. And then when you feel comfortable with it, then perhaps consider. But again, that is in the link description below, and let's jump into it right now. So I want to kind of start off today's video in a bit more of a different sense, because we do have some indications here that this rally is very, 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 very likely being sprung off by as a short covering rally. How do we know that, or how do we know that that is very, very likely? Well, on the Krown application here, if we go into the global open interest and we actually dial it down to the hourly data feed, you will notice in the last, basically the last day since we last spoke, we saw open interest go from about 13 billion to where we're at right now at about 12.5 billion. So about a half a billion was wiped off the board right there, with price action going up. So what does that essentially imply? That essentially implies that shorts who were on the board, which yes, yesterday we were seeing negative short-term funny rates, now kind of flipping to positive, but I don't want to get ahead of myself right here. But we saw those negative rates, suggesting that people who, there was certainly a degree of people who are over aggressively shorting below, especially about 39,000 bucks. Those people likely got washed out, liquidated, and then other people very likely let go of their positions, as we do see open interest go down, significant amount with price action going up. So that calls into question the legitimacy of this rally, and I want to offer up a very nuanced interpretation of this. So I would not say that this is necessarily a bad thing in and of itself as we go into the price action charts right here. What this does imply, however, though, is that if we do confirm a local high, I would be looking for more of the same. Very likely another move back down to the current range lows, maybe even beyond as well. Although I do have my reservations that Bitcoin gets any major continuation from this region right here. It's you have to temper it on both sides, right? At the same time, just because the shorts covering did kind of start this rally doesn't mean that things have to end right there. You can get reversals off of short covering rallies, but there's a very specific criteria that we're going to be looking for in order to kind of validate that going onwards and forwards from here. And it's quite literally this. Very, very simply put, if Bitcoin can close a full hour or 4 hour, 6 hour, even an hourly, especially above the last local high that we saw from 13th of April, which was 41,500, the same area that we've essentially been looking at, then I would be looking for a nice big leg up, somewhere around about $43,000, kind of the same criteria, the same play as before. Now, until that happens, I do think that if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, I would feel comfortable myself using 41,300, essentially the breakdown point that we saw back on over here from 14th of April, as a bit of a range resolution point, thus implying price action back up towards around 43,000 bucks. Very likely a pullback from there based off of I believe we had the 0.5 somewhere around there. Yeah, we had the 0.5 right around that region. And then we come back to after that, very likely, looking for a higher low and then continuation towards the major macro area at $44,000. Above there on a higher term time frame closure, I do call Bitcoin a major, massive bear trap, and I look for price action into the shallow $50,000 territory and probably continuation onwards and forwards from there. Sorry for the very inconvenient dogs right now. They're lovely, but they're quite loud, unfortunately, right now. So hopefully that's not coming too loud over the microphone. Anyways, with that in mind, until that happens, though, keep in mind the perspective here that Bitcoin is still operating on lower highs and we still have lower lows. This is a downtrend, and within the concept of the trend, what's most likely to happen? Continuation, of course. And we do have several indications over here to be wary of right now, of which we are baking, or not we are, but Bitcoin as an inanimate object is baking hidden bearish divergence or continuation divergence all the way up to a 6 hour time frame right here, maybe even a 12 hour as well. Let me just double check. Actually, yes, it would be on a 12 hour as well. How would we confirm a local high, thus confirming that hidden bearish divergence, thus confirming targets back down to basically yesterday's lows on a closing basis, about 39,000 bucks, with potential for more. Again, I do hold my reservations for any major continuation to new lows here, but how would we confirm that? Well, I do believe the most aggressive way to be looking at this would be with an hourly closure below about 40,100. If you just want to make it a nice round even number, you can use 40,000 bucks as well. But below there, I would confirm this as a local high, also a lower high with hidden bearish divergence confirmed all the way up to a 12-hour as well. And at that point, we're very likely going to see short-term time frame stochastic momentum turn down as well. So if we go here and reference the 6-hour, this one's going to be closing again in about 3 hours and 43 minutes. Now, for right now, it's nice and healthily up. It's going to, kind of take a lot to force this one back down, but naturally that 39,300 pivot will will rise up naturally with the next closure. If we go down to the 4-hour closure, which we just had a new one actually, 39,150 is the pivot for the short term. Based off of the 4-hour. The 3-hour is where things start to get a little bit more, not the 3-hour, but the 2-hour and lower. But for right now, the 3-hour showing 39,250. The bi-hourly also showing here 40,900 and kind of, at a critical condition. Obviously, the hourly is going to be around there as well and probably flippy floppy down. Indeed, it is 40,900 as well, kind of the pivot right there. So if Bitcoin is going to fail, what is it likely going to look like in the short term here? So let's pull up a fresh chart perhaps. Is this a fresh one? Maybe. Well, who knows? It is because I just made it one. And what would we essentially be looking at? We'd essentially be looking at, let me actually mark off the range highs right here. Uno momento right there. Whoopsies, and let's bring that back. God damn it, stop it. I demand that you stop it, TradingView. But we might see something like this where, Bitcoin kind of maybe gives another spike up, something like that, rejects, gets another one of those big wicks, and then down, big area right here at about 40,100. Is how I'm kind of looking at it myself. For more aggressive, like the most aggressive people, probably looking at 40,400. I don't think that would be very wise. Probably another bounce somewhere right around there. And then if you break below that 40,150 region on an hourly closing basis, at that point, I would be looking for this whole rally to be forced back down to 39,000 bucks essentially. At that point, do I look for continuation? Perhaps down to the next major blue box territory? Probably yes. Let's see where it is. I believe it is 37,500. Yeah, between about 37 even and 37,500. The problem is though, or depending upon your disposition, obviously, I don't think that Bitcoin, even if it does break down here and continue lower, has enough momentum, enough drive, enough juice to really break down to like significantly new lows. So I really want to differentiate myself from like the mega perma bears who are constantly calling for, like significantly lower prices, and obviously the perma bulls as well. But I think we've kind of got that out of the way. Because if we do get continuation, I do think that things are kind of, going to be capped for the short term and medium term, at least somewhere down around here. The reason why I say that is because, again, referencing our stochastic momentum on the medium and higher term timeframes, it's going to take a lot to force it back down. 12-hour is showing 39,700 as a pivot on CME. Daily, however, is still not even crossing the upside, but showing a pivot at 39,600 and change right there. By daily, also correcting quite significantly, but still showing 46,500. So maybe we just sidestep that one. And we got the 5-day and the weekly kind of both pivoted at about 37.5 for the 5-day, and actually the weekly is at 39.3, which is very concerning for end of week potentially. But for right now, I do still think that the hopium is alive. The long-term hopium though, I would kind of suspect as either putting in a quick wick down in this range low right here, or perhaps this range low right here. And I just kind of look at it as a range resolution. Whichever one doesn't work, I look for the next one. Basically, it's not super, it's probably not super comforting, but at the end of the day, I probably would be looking for, big daily bounces off of one of these two levels. Which one is it? Don't fucking know. But that's kind of where I'd be looking for it. And, and if Bitcoin is going to end up being bullish from here, it's very likely going to take a long time. Let me go on to another fresh chart. Yeah, it's very likely going to take a long time, and you're probably going to see like a very long drawn out kind of grind on the weekly for like the next couple months as Bitcoin does put in a slew of kind of ever so slightly higher lows, and then most importantly flips back around at minimum the $44,000 level on a higher term time frame closing basis. If you want to be super conservative, I suppose you'd be waiting for about the 46,500 high right here, anywhere above there, and I'm basically looking for Bitcoin to trade back up close to 60 60,000 bucks plus. So that is still available, obviously, but you know, as I've kind of been going over with this chart over here, which I won't go through the full rigmarole with it or even explain it at all, because I've done it too many times and I think I'm just boring the shit out of people with it. You know, as long as Bitcoin's especially below the 5-day pivot, that being the 5-day momentum pivot right here, which is 45,550, and also closing tomorrow, you know, probabilities do still favor downside continuation. So I would still want to be aware of that. Also, on top of that, if we do go down to our funny rates for the hourly, we're seeing the highest funny rates on the positive side. For the highest funny rates, certainly in the last week here. If we go onto the daily, when was the last time we saw 0.01%? Do we even see it right here? What is this? That doesn't look right. Okay, we saw it a few weeks ago, late March when Bitcoin was putting in that rally towards $48,000, which ultimately did fail. So I would say that again is a little bit more on the side of a potential, potential another lower high. I would not confirm that, personally speaking, until I see an hourly closure below about 40,150. If that happens, then yes, I'm looking for yesterday's lows to be retested. Probably another short-term bounce there. Maybe one leg a little bit lower towards 37 to 37,500. That's where I'd probably be looking for the big bounce, as we do kind of reference that. Anyways, is there any other things that I want to bring up here? I suppose, again, just kind of referencing the Hopium case here. If we want to extrapolate on the Hopium case, again, I think it probably looks something like this long term, if we were to put on a line chart, but also kind of in confluence with the Hopium case. If I wanted to make it a bit more well-rounded, I'd bring up this chart over here, the Tether dominance chart. I do think that it is putting in a bit of a short-term high. Yes, again, short-term high, not the same thing as long-term high. I do think that this one probably does come down at some point towards about 360 and tries for a higher low there. I mean, kind of already got it, to be fair. So I guess the next region would be about 330, but that would imply, upside price action. On Bitcoin, typically speaking, at least on the macro scale. Problem is, I go to a monthly here and kind of have to be bullish on that long term. So I still have to be looking for higher lows in the interim. But for right now, is this putting in a bit of a bit of a distributive effect right here, and probably does trade down after maybe giving one more try towards 4.5? Probably yes. So what would that equate to on price action? One more down, whether Bitcoin finds a low at 39 or 37-ish, let's say, that's fair game. But after that, I would be looking for this to come down, and then Bitcoin likely goes up, and then hopefully, for the Bulaw's sake, we don't see a higher low on this one. Anyways, other than that, I think it's a good place for me to kind of sign off here. Keep in mind that the next big signal on the daily right here is still baking. We do see daily BBWP trending down to some pretty low levels. So I do suspect that we're getting ready for another 20% or so move, as we have seen for the last few months. Anytime that we have seen into the teens, or especially lower than that, the expansion phase from that level has been about a 20% move on average, which I guess we can probably end on this. Let me see. Do I still have it marked off here? I guess not. Well, we can just redo it. It's easy enough now, isn't it? Right here, boom, right here, boom, right here. Wrong one, but there we go, close enough. The most recent one that we saw earlier this April, to the downside. We obviously had this one over here as well. We can just focus on these. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Maybe the next one's up as well, but all of these have been about 20% moves. So we can just briefly measure them out right here. So 21% to the downside, obviously, about 25 or 24% to the upside right there, 21.25 to the downside in this case, then to the upside over here, another 22.75. Most recently, we had this one for about almost 20%. So I probably am looking for another 20% move off of this base. And Bitcoin could come down to that level first and then see the expansion to the upside, actually. If we were to play 20% off of 37, where does that put Bitcoin? Actually back around 44 to 45, which would be healthy. If it comes to the downside, then probably getting ready for 35 to probably around 35. Anyways, I'm going to be signing off right there. I think hopefully that was in some way helpful, some way valuable. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more live stream analysis. Lucky was going to do the outro, but he's gone. So with that said, take care and see you hopefully soon.